Hi, I'm Gemma, and this is a chat with Gemma. So today I thought I'd talk about teenage. And of course, teenage is a funny term, isn't it? Because it goes from 13 to 19. And a lot of things happen during that time. There's quite a big difference between a 13-year-old and a 19-year-old. One could be still, in the lower part of secondary school, and the other could be at war, being shot at. So there's a lot of difference, and the amount of changes and growing up that occur during that time are a pretty big thing. But then aren't they all the way through? Being born's pretty traumatic, and learning to walk and bumping your head all the time is pretty traumatic, and reaching for something and you can't get it is pretty traumatic, and on it goes. So life is full of change, so we have to kind of just find a way to deal with that, don't we? But I see people on sort of late night TV and things, and celebrities talking about, usually the person who is hosting the show, usually a man, tends to think that we all want to know about the celebrities' children. Personally, I don't. But anyway, it's 100% sure that they'll ask about their children. And whenever the celebrity has children that are in their teens, the host will tend to sort of go, "Oh, how's that going?" And there's a lot of, oh yes, well, teenagers, yeah, teens. Oh, dear, oh dear. It's difficult, Oh yes, I know. My kids are teenagers too. Yes, it's rough, isn't it? And they go on like this, which I think is interesting, because some people have teenagers that just grow up and they go through their teens and they get to adulthood and they move out of home and they do their thing after that. And there's no real issues along the way. So what's going on? Well, the parents are to blame. So I've finished my YouTube video now. That's all I needed to say. No, it's hard to be a parent of a teenager, particularly when you're not maybe fully grown up yourself, could I say? And I don't mean to, insult anyone, but let's face it, most adults probably never really fully grow up in some ways. And so they make mistakes. And, it is a lot to do with the parents. And, of course, it's a lot to do with genetics. It does play a role. But it does still go back to the way the parents have raised their child from the beginning until now. And, there's a lot of families where they've adopted or they've fostered. And so I'm not really talking about situations like that, because it's a whole different ballgame where they haven't been responsible for the child from being a newborn and onwards. So that's quite a difficult thing, and they're kind of cleaning up somebody else's messes. But if you're a parent and you've got a rotten teenager, then it's pretty much 80% your fault. So you might say, so Gemma, how many teenagers have you raised? Well, none, which is exactly why I'm the best person to talk about this, because I look from the outside in. Much easier to do it from there. You can't talk about it from the inside out. You're too stressed and you're too annoyed and you're too badly behaved. So, yeah, I see a lot of pretty terrible parenting, and I see a lot of really good parenting of teenagers. And let me, if you'll listen to me, give a few little kind of facts about this. It's not for me to tell you how to do this, but I can point out a few things about being a teenager and parenting a teenager. And, we all know that once they get to the teens, they're on their way to block your ears, becoming a grown-up. And they know it and you know it. So a lot of parents are thinking, oh, can't wait to get this kid out of the house, And so for them it's a different ball game. They just want to see the back of their child and send them on their way. And perhaps not take terribly much notice of them after that and go for a 6-month holiday overseas. But I'm really talking about the average parent. And I think it's not unusual to say that parents do want their children to remain as children, because babies are so cute, and then they're 2 and they're so cute, and then they're 5 and they're starting school and they're so cute, and then they get a bit older and they're not so cute, and they keep getting bigger and taller, and they're just not cute at all anymore, and you've got to help them with their homework, but you still love them because they look like your Auntie Betty or something, and, they're yours, so you love them. And then they hit the teens, and you don't want that to happen because you don't want them to leave you. You don't want them to leave the house and go bye-bye off to their flat or wherever they're going to go. And so a lot of parents are wanting to just hold on as long as they can. And a lot of kids are that way too. There are a lot of kids who don't really want to grow up. They just want to hold on to mummy and daddy forever and ever. It's nice and warm and cozy here, and it's safe, and, I've got everything. And I don't have to do all those things like worry about, the gas bill and make sure I pay the phone bill and all those sort of things. I don't have to think about anything. I'm just at home. And that's all really lovely. And so there are kids like that will want to stay at home. And often the parents and the kids are in agreement that way. And so you have some young adults that are at home probably much longer than is really wise. But, that's not my business. But then let's look at it. As a person goes towards adulthood, they are going to want to be freer. They're going to want to make their own decisions, do things for themselves, see what they're made of. Can I do this? Am I capable of doing that? And at the same time, while they're moving through that process to adulthood, they do want to still hold your hand a little bit. So they might want to be able to kind of let go of your hand, as it were, and go off and explore, and then come back and hold your hand again. And the hand holding in a healthy world will get less and less until they don't need to hold your hand at all. And even, when people leave home, they still often want to say, oh, Dad, there's a pipe burst and what do I do? The oven stopped working. What do you think I should do? Things like that. And, you still might want some sage advice here or there. And that's all perfectly normal and healthy. And sometimes as we get older, we don't maybe look to our parents. We might look to a friend who's, we know their pipe burst too, and so they did whatever they did and it worked. So I might ring them instead. So that's another sign of moving away from needing the parents. So parents are going to have to get used to the idea that even though you gave birth to a baby because you wanted a baby, because babies are so lovely and aren't they just so little, and oh, he's so helpless, and oh, look how tiny her toes are, and it's all, gorgeous. And you're not really thinking to that time when they become adults at all. You're just thinking about this fun part. But if you're going to be a good parent, then you're going to have to start thinking about this now that they've turned 13 or 14 or so. Because it's going to come like that. It's going to come in the blink of an eye, honestly. Those few years are just going to go, they're going to go so fast. So you need to be letting your child start making some of their own decisions now. Do you want to contribute to where we're going to go for our beach holiday, because maybe the flat beach isn't your thing anymore. Would you like to, Dad and I are discussing it now. Do you want to have a say? Maybe they want to renovate their own room and tear down the wallpaper that's got little, yellow duckies all over it and put up something a little bit more grown up. Maybe they want to start earning some money and buying some of their own clothes and, pitching in and helping to pay for things like if they need a mobile phone, things like that. They can help to, pitch in, which is good for you. And you need to start talking about the things that they need to know. So food handling, what's the best way to avoid getting food poisoning? Things like that. What's a good nourishing diet? What do you need to eat every day? Things like that you need to start talking about. And you might need to teach your child how to change a tyre. Because particularly daughters, you don't want them off in the middle of the night and they're up a country road or something and they can't get help for the next 3/4 of an hour. If they can change their own tyre and get going again, it might be safer in the end. So things like that, and if you blow a fuse at home or the circuit goes, you might say, come on, put your jumper on, we're going outside, bring the torch, and, we're going to do this together. What do I do when the igniter on the oven won't work if you've got a gas oven? Here we are, we're going to get the lighter, or we're going to get a big long match, and we're going to go, phoom, and teach them how to do these things so that they're not stuck, not being able to cook or in the cold or things like that. If you've got a gas heater, what happens if although they're changing things now, the new ones, you don't need to do that, but if they go and rent an old house or something and they need to be able to relight the pilot light in the gas heater, you don't want your child freezing all night, things like that. So if you do that, your children are going to still come back to you after they've become adults, whether that's for you 18 or 21 or whatever that is. Let's say they're now 22. They're still going to come back to you for advice occasionally. What did you and Dad used to do about so-and-so? What was, how did you go? What did you think of this? Or I've got a vote and I'm not too sure about, what do you and Dad think about this? Or what do you and Mum think about this? That sort of thing. And they might not listen to you. Or, and they've got friends, so they're going to balance it all between what they themselves decide and what their friends say. But think of it as an honour that they've come to you. And if you're going to be very confrontational with your child because you can't accept the fact that they want to do these things, basically make their way from 13 to adulthood, then you're going to have a lot of rows and a lot of yelling. And you're going to have a difficult teenager and the teenager is going to say they've got a difficult parent or two. And, I don't know whether they're going to come back and consult you once they do leave home, and they might want to leave home sooner rather than later if that's the case, because in some cases you can make a legal request to be able to go, I think, when you're 16 and leave home if there are good reasons for it. So, so you don't want to push your child away by creating a lot of tension in the house. And you've got to remember that you're the grown-up. The child is a child still. They're trying to make their way to adulthood. And yes, they're making mistakes. And yes, they're getting grumpy and whatever else. I can remember when I was, probably 13 or 14, and coming home from school one day, and I don't know what had happened, I can't remember, but I was really in a grumpy mood. And, kids have hormones and they have a lot of stress with homework, and I had to go 1 mile there, 1 mile back, and, there's a lot of tiredness and a lot of homework to do, and I was doing sort of other subjects outside of school as well. And it can all be really very tiring, and your teenagers are going to get grumpy. You get grumpy? Betcha. You might say, Gemma, I never get grumpy. Well, good on you. You're unusual, because most parents, for a fact I know, get very grumpy from time to time. So anyway, I walked in the door and I was not doing anything bad, but I was just in a mood, and my mother said to me, don't you bring your bad mood here. And I thought, I'm home. Where else do I bring my bad mood then? You can't say that to a child. It's like saying, I don't want you here, or to a teenager, and not quite a child. This is, your place is still their home until they leave. So they need to be able to have a bad mood and just let them have some space and get it out. I mean, I'm not talking about somebody who hits people or breaks things. That's a different thing altogether. But if they've just got a bad mood, it's probably going to fizzle out in about 3 minutes if you leave them alone. Or you can maybe even say, oh, it sounds like you've had something rotten happen. I'm sorry that you're not much of a mood at the moment. You're okay. If you want to talk about it, come and talk about it, but don't press it. If they want to just let it fizzle out, they might not even be aware that they're in a bad mood. So just let it fizzle out on its own. And maybe, if they've got a provocative younger brother or sister, you might get them out of arm's reach for a while, because little brothers and sisters can sometimes just know the exact moment to come along and press that button. And, they could be in danger if they do that, so we don't want that to happen. And you absolutely have to require that throughout all of this, they are not insulting to you, and that you agree to not be insulting to them. Because I hear parents saying all kinds of things that are really just, they're not kosher. They're not in the handbook of parenting, I can tell you that much. And people just do it all the time. They say things to their children because they're tired themselves and they're in a hurry and whatever, and they're insulting things. So you need to agree with each other. We are not going to insult each other. So you're a teenager now, you're growing up, I'm going to respect you. Because, it's really good that you're growing up. That's what we want you to do. That's the natural, normal way of things. I'm going to agree to not insult you, and I'm going to require you very strongly to not insult me or your other parent or anybody else. So you can always express your feelings, but you don't insult anyone. And look, teenagers are fantastic. They're starting to understand the world a lot. They understand, human nuances and all of that stuff. They can be an enormous help around the house and, rescue you from all kinds of difficulties sometimes. Just hold the baby while I do the, there's all sorts of things that teenagers are just wonderful at. And why not, give your teenager a bit of a pat in the back now and then and say, today, I can't tell you, I was so frazzled. And when you took the baby and, went off down the street with the baby in the pusher and got her to sleep, that was saved me from having a nervous breakdown. Things like that. And you can just start opening up a little bit more, age appropriately, of course. And the teenager then knows, I'm some use around the place. I'm not a nuisance. I'm not, just always getting my parents angry. I'm somebody who contributes. I contribute in a positive way. And then that makes them somebody who contributes in the workplace eventually. And people like them. They like having them around. They're going to be the sort of person who has lots of friends and gets good jobs because employers can see what sort of person they are. All right, I'll finish there. I hope you're well, and bye for now.